Welcome to BNN. Let's jump right into today's incredible story. You won't want to miss this. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy it. I have evidence of my ex-fiancée's plan to sabotage my career immediately after our wedding. In a recorded conversation with her friends, she laughed about how they intended to take everything from me. I decided to play this shocking recording during our reception, and the expression on her face when she realized what I had done was irreplaceable. This morning, her parents inundated me with frantic calls, desperate for an explanation. To provide some context, I am 32 years old and have spent the last 6 years building a small but thriving software company from the ground up. My former fiancée, now my ex, is 29, and we were together for 3 years, engaged for 1. Our wedding was scheduled for tomorrow, and I had already invested $38,000 into the preparations. A sum I now view as the best investment of my life. The series of events began 3 weeks ago while I was working late in my home office. My fiancée believed I had left for a client meeting and had her college friends over. As I was about to greet them, I overheard my name mentioned in a troubling context. Driven by curiosity and concern, I discreetly activated the voice recorder on my phone. What I heard sent chills down my spine. My fiancée, slightly inebriated, dismissed the prenup as a mere joke. She claimed her attorney had identified multiple ways to circumvent it, asserting that after the wedding, they would seize all my assets. When a friend inquired if I would retaliate, she laughed, saying I had built my identity around being the nice guy. They went on to discuss her manipulation in getting her name on my business and how she had gradually distanced me from friends who could have intervened. I felt ill but continued recording as they elaborated on their scheme to take everything, including my house and business, so she could finally move to Miami, a long-held dream of hers. I recorded nearly an hour of their conversation, and once her friend departed, I waited until she went to bed. I packed an overnight bag, grabbed my laptop and important documents, and checked into a hotel. That night, sleep eluded me. At 6 a.m., I contacted my attorney, sending him the recording, and he advised me to stay away from home. The next day, I informed my fiancée that I had to go on an emergency business trip for 2 weeks. During that time, I remained in the hotel, collaborated with my attorney to document everything while pretending that everything was fine when she called, expressing her love and excitement about becoming Mrs. My last name. The wedding plans continued, culminating in our rehearsal dinner yesterday. Surrounded by family and friends, I stood to deliver what appeared to be a heartfelt speech. Instead, I connected my phone to the venue sound system and played the recording of her voice, revealing her malicious intentions. The color drained from her face as the reality of the situation sank in. Confusion morphed into horror, and an eerie silence enveloped the room once the recording concluded. I looked directly at her and declared that the wedding was off. Her father stood up in anger, accusing me of recording her illegally. My attorney, present at dinner, calmly clarified that in this state, recording a conversation you are part of is entirely legal and advised against making threats. Chaos ensued as my ex lunged at me, screaming that I was ruining everything. Security swiftly escorted her out, and I addressed the remaining guests, apologizing for the disruption and informing them that dinner had already been paid for. I then left for my new apartment, which I had secretly rented 2 weeks earlier. This morning, I awoke to 47 missed calls from my ex, her parents, and some mutual friends, all trying to comprehend the events that transpired. I had not replied to any of them, but her messages quickly shifted from apologetic to threatening, insisting that I would regret my actions. I even sent the recording to her workplace, which did not appreciate her plans to falsely accuse me of abuse. Legally, I was in a strong position. The venue would not refund the wedding costs, but I considered a small price to pay for uncovering her true nature before it was too late. The fallout from the rehearsal dinner was swift. Friends who attended reported that my ex had a complete breakdown in the parking lot, and her father threatened legal action against everyone involved. I met with my parents, who were shocked but supportive. My mother had never trusted my ex, while my father simply remarked, "You dodged a bullet, son." Eventually, I responded to a call from her mother, who left a tearful voicemail. I advised her to listen to the recording again, as it clearly illustrated her daughter's true character. Her father attempted a different tactic by showing up unannounced in my office, causing a scene in the lobby, but security quickly removed him. My ex cycled through various strategies, first claiming she was joking, then accusing me of manipulating the recording. She even showed up at my apartment, crying and pleading through the door, but I remained resolute and filed for restraining order, which was granted. One of her bridesmaids reached out to me privately, revealing that my ex had pulled similar schemes with previous partners. She provided screenshots of group chats where my ex had been discussing her plans for nearly a year. The wedding vendors were surprisingly supportive, while the venue retained my deposit. Others offered partial refunds, and the caterer even returned my full payment. Navigating mutual friendships proved challenging. Some supported me, while others favored her or tried to remain neutral. One couple even suggested I should have confronted her privately, as if plotting to fraudulently accuse me of abuse warranted a private discussion. I received a formal letter from her attorney demanding I cease sharing the recording, but my attorney clarified that truth serves as a defense against defamation. Exhausted but determined to move forward, I began therapy and started cataloging the numerous red flags I had ignored. My new apartment felt like home, and I was finally sleeping soundly again. Her parents continued to call from various numbers, with the last message stating they had disowned me from their family. I shrugged it off. I never wanted to be part of that family anyway. Fast forward 6 months, and this tumultuous chapter of my life is finally drawing to a close. 2 of my ex's former boyfriends contacted me after hearing about my experience. They shared similar stories of manipulation and financial exploitation. We met for drinks to compare notes, and one even had text messages where she explicitly detailed using him to advance her career. It became evident that she had been perfecting the strategy for years, with me as her ultimate target. My ex launched an extensive damage control campaign, telling anyone who would listen that I was mentally unstable and that the recording was edited. No one believed her. The restraining order was extended after she violated it twice. Once by sending letters to my apartment, and again by attempting to sneak into my office building. The wedding that never occurred became a local legend. I received messages from strangers who had heard about the groom who played the recording. While this notoriety was unusual, at least the story was true. I managed to recover most of the wedding costs through partial refunds and selling items. The engagement ring was resold, and I donated part of the proceeds to an organization that assists victims of false accusations. My company secured 2 major clients, and I reconnected with friends my ex had isolated me from. I even began dating again, enjoying authentic conversations with individuals who didn't view me as a financial resource. Last I heard, my ex was moving to Miami, just as she had intended, but without any of the spoils she had hoped to take from me. Yesterday, everything came full circle at a regional tech conference where I was giving a presentation. As I spoke, I noticed a commotion at the entrance. It was her. She looked different, shorter hair, a new style, but it was unmistakably her. Our eyes met briefly, but I continued my presentation without skipping a beat. Afterward, while discussing potential project with clients, she approached me and requested a moment of my time. Against my better judgment, I agreed to sit down in a public area nearby. "You look good," she said, acknowledging my company's success. "What do you want?" I asked, feeling a mixture of curiosity and caution. She sighed and apologized, revealing that she had been fired following an investigation at her workplace. "Nobody in our industry will hire me now," she confessed. I felt a distant pity for her. "Actions have consequences," I replied, devoid of any malice. "I'm moving to Miami next week to start over. I just needed to see you before I left to tell you that you were right to do what you did," she said, sounding smaller and less imposing than before. "Do your parents know where you're going?" I asked. "We don't talk anymore. Not since everything came to light. There were aspects of my life they didn't know," she admitted. "I'm not seeking forgiveness," she continued. "I just wanted you to understand that I recognize my mistakes now. Therapy and all that." I could have said many things, but instead, I simply replied, "I hope you find what you're looking for in Miami." Her surprise was evident. "That's it?" she asked. "That's it. Your actions revealed your true self, and my actions reveal mine. There's nothing more to discuss. As I stood to leave, she asked, "Are you happy? Really happy?" I paused to reflect on her question. My company was thriving, I had genuine friends, and I was dating someone honest and supportive. "Yes," I replied, "I am." The look on her face transformed from anger to resignation, as if she finally accepted that her intricate scheme had ultimately liberated me. Later that evening, her parents texted, hoping to meet and mend family wounds now that she was moving. I chose not to respond. Some bridges are meant to be burned. This morning, I woke up next to the woman I have been seeing. She knows my entire story and embraces me for who I am. We shared breakfast, discussing ordinary topics like work, weekend plans, and movies. No schemes, no manipulation, just real life. That's how I know this chapter is closed. Not because my ex apologized, but because what happened no longer defines me. It's a story now, with a clear beginning, middle, and end. They say the best revenge is living well, and they're right. But the best closure isn't about confronting your past. It's about being so fulfilled in your present that the past loses its power completely. That's where I stand now, and it's more than enough. As a final note, I still record significant conversations. Once burned, twice prepared.